Through the vast expanse of space, Earth's flagship Thunderstorm cut through the darkness like a blade of hope. Admiral Jeho Park's weathered hands gripped the command rail as he studied the holographic display before him. The bridge hummed with tension, crew members working in practiced silence as they processed the unexpected distress signal that had brought them to this moment. The hologram flickered, showing worlds being consumed by an unknown force. Entire planets reduced to cosmic dust, their populations screaming into the void. Ambassador Du Young of the Galactic Council stood beside Park, his usually composed demeanor cracking under the weight of desperation. "We would not come to Earth if we had any other choice," Du Young said, his translator struggling to convey the tremor in his voice. "The Nura civilization faces complete extinction. Our most advanced species have failed to stop this threat." Park watched the footage again, noting the systematic destruction. Each world fell in exactly the same pattern. First communications, then defense systems, and finally total planetary collapse. "You avoided contact with Earth for centuries," he stated, not accusation but fact. "Called us primitive, dangerous, Deathworlders." Du Young's 4 eyes blinked in sequence, a sign of shame in his species. "We were wrong. What we saw as primitive is exactly what we need. Your people evolved on a world that should have killed you. High gravity, extreme temperature variations, deadly predators, natural disasters. Yet you thrived." The Admiral's attention shifted to a new hologram, showing the Nura homeworld. Beautiful crystal spires reached into the sky, their architecture defying physics itself. The Nura were considered one of the most advanced civilizations in known space. Their technological achievement had allowed them to reshape their world into a paradise. But paradise, Park knew, bred weakness. "How many worlds have fallen?" Park asked, bringing up tactical displays with a gesture. 17 colonies in the past Earth month. The Nura capital will be next." Du Young moved closer to the displays, his crystalline body reflecting the red warning lights. "Our weapons pass through the enemy like they're not there. Our shields might as well be vapor." Park nodded, already forming plans. Humanity had never stopped preparing for war, even in peace. Every scientific advancement, every technological breakthrough was viewed through the lens of survival. Earth's military forces were built to fight in conditions that would crush most species. "Show me their attack patterns again," Park commanded. The hologram shifted, displaying tactical data. He noticed something the Nura had missed. The enemy adapted to each defense, but they had never faced human military doctrine. They'd never encountered weapons designed to function in Earth's crushing gravity and extreme conditions. The bridge crew watched as their admiral analyzed the data. They knew that look. Humanity was going to war. Not for conquest or resources, but because someone needed help. It was ironic that the very traits that made Earth feared would now make them saviors. "Tell the Council we accept," Park finally said, straightening his uniform. "But make it clear, we do this our way. No restrictions, no holding back. They wanted Deathworlders. They'll get Deathworlders." Du Young's relief was palpable. "The Council agrees to your terms. We'll provide all the intelligence we have." As the ambassador left to relay the message, Park turned to his crew. "Send word to the fleet. Battle stations. We're deploying everything we have." His voice carried the weight of command, of responsibility, of Earth's determination to protect even those who had shunned them. The thunderstorm came alive with activity. Throughout the massive ship, crews prepared for war. In the hangars, pilots ran pre-flight checks on fighters designed to operate in environments that would crush most alien vessels. Engineers activated weapon systems that could function in the extremes of space, tested in the depths of Earth's oceans and the heat of its volcanoes. As Park watched his crew prepare, he knew humanity was about to show the galaxy why they had survived their deadly homeworld. The enemy, whatever it was, had never faced a species forged in the crucible of Earth. They were about to learn why even the Council feared the Deathworlders. "Signal the fleet," Park ordered. We leave in 6 hours. Today, we show them what humanity can do. The message spread across Earth's military forces. Ships began moving into position, crews ready for battle. The Deathworlders were going to war, and the galaxy would never be the same. Commander Haenul Kim stood before the assembled fleet crews in the massive briefing chamber of the Thunderstorm. The holographic displays behind her showed the devastating destruction of Nura colonies, images that made even battle-hardened soldiers pause. The room fell silent as she began her briefing, her voice carrying the weight of humanity's first major interstellar intervention. "What you're seeing is not simulation," she stated, gesturing to the horrific footage. "These were thriving worlds just weeks ago. Now they're cosmic debris. The Nura Chancellor himself has requested our help. A species that once called us primitive now begs for our intervention." The irony wasn't lost on anyone. The Nura, with their crystalline cities and energy-based technology, had long looked down on humanity's crude methods. But those same methods, developed to survive Earth's harsh conditions, now represented their last hope. Through the chamber's windows, Earth's fleet gathered. 50 warships, each a testament to human engineering and determination. The Thunderstorm alone carried enough firepower to level continents, its weapons designed to function in conditions that would destroy most alien technology. Chancellor Kai appeared on the main display, his crystalline form shimmering with distress. "Your species understands survival," he addressed the crews. "You evolved on a world that should have killed you. Instead, it made you stronger. We need that strength now." Commander Kim brought up tactical displays, showing the enemy's attack patterns. They target communication systems first, then defensive installations. Finally, they somehow destabilize the planet's core itself. No Nura weapon has been effective against them. The crews studied the data with professional interest. Humanity had never stopped preparing for war, even in peace. Every ship in their fleet carried weapons tested in Earth's deepest oceans, hottest deserts, and most extreme environments. They were built to survive conditions that would crush most alien vessels. "Admiral Park has authorized full deployment," Kim continued. "All 50 ships, no restrictions. This is what we train for, not just to fight, but to protect. The enemy, whatever they are, has never faced weapons designed for Earth's gravity, never encountered ships built to withstand our world's extremes." Technical specifications flowed across the screens. Each ship carried modified plasma cannons that could function in crushing pressures, kinetic weapons tested in volcanic conditions, and shields designed to withstand forces that would tear apart most alien vessels. "The Nura ridicule our primitive technology," Kim said, allowing a small smile. "They're about to learn why Earth breeds survivors, why our crude methods work when their advanced technology fails. We deploy in 12 hours. Throughout the fleet, crews began final preparations. Engineers ran diagnostic checks on systems that would have been impossible on most worlds. Pilots prepared fighters designed to operate in conditions that would destroy most alien craft. Weapon specialists calibrated arrays that could function in the extremes of space. Admiral Park's voice came over the fleet-wide channel. "This is why we never stopped preparing. Why we built our military while others sought only peace. Today, we show the galaxy that Earth's children are not just survivors. We're protectors." The crews dispersed to their stations, purpose in their movements. Humanity's reputation as dangerous Deathworlders had kept them isolated, feared. Now that same reputation made them the last hope for a civilization that had once shunned them. Commander Kim watched the fleet's final preparations from the bridge. 50 ships, the most powerful armada humans had ever assembled, ready to prove why Earth's harsh cradle had forged them into something unique in the galaxy. The enemy had destroyed 17 Euro worlds, but they had never faced humanity's determination, never encountered a species that turned their deadly homeworld's challenges into strengths. The Deathworlders were going to war, and the galaxy would learn why Earth was feared. As the fleet moved into formation, Kim sent one final message. "Remember your training. Remember why we fight. Today, we show them what humanity can do. The ship's engines flared to life, their hulls gleaming in the starlight. Humanity's first major interstellar intervention was about to begin, and nothing in the galaxy would ever be the same. Reality twisted as 50 human warships tore through hyperspace into the Nura system. The sight that greeted them was both magnificent and terrifying. Nura Prime hung in space like a jewel, its crystal cities glinting in the light of 3 suns. But surrounding it was a dark cloud, the biomechanical swarms that had already destroyed 17 colonies. Lieutenant Ta One's fingers danced across his sensor station aboard the Thunderstorm. The swarms moved with terrifying precision, breaking apart and reforming like living metal. Through high-resolution scans, he could see their true nature, part machine, part organic, all deadly. Multiple hostile formations detected, he reported, his voice steady despite the horror before him. They're consuming a mining outpost on the 3rd moon. Structural integrity of the colony is failing. Captain Sun Mei stood at her tactical station, analyzing the enemy's movements. Years of military training kicked in as she mapped their attack patterns. The swarms weren't just destroying. They were learning, adapting, evolving with each conquest. They follow predictable paths, she announced, highlighting patterns on the main display. Each attack has 4 phases. They're not random, they're methodical, almost like they're following programming. The Nura defense fleet hung back, their advanced ships already proven useless against the threat. They watched in amazement as the human fleet split into attack formations, moving into positions that would tear apart most vessels. The Thunderstorm led the charge, its hull designed to withstand pressures that would crush their crystalline ships. Deploy fighters, Admiral Park ordered. Show them why Earth breeds warriors. Human fighters streamed from the carrier ships, their designs unlike anything the Nura had seen. Where alien craft relied on energy shields and advanced technology, these were built with Earth's brutal simplicity. Armor tested in volcanic vents, engines that could function in crushing depths, weapons designed to work in any environment. The swarms reacted to the new threat, turning their attention to the human fleet. They attempted their usual tactics, electromagnetic pulses that had disabled Nura ships, energy weapons that had cut through alien armor. But humanity's primitive technology proved resistant. Their attacks are based on disrupting advanced systems, Captain Lee observed. Our mechanical backups and hardened electronics are immune. They've never faced a species that builds for survival first, elegance second. Lieutenant Ta One's sensors captured everything as the first engagement began. Human fighters dove into the swarms, using maneuvers that would kill most alien pilots. The high gravity of Earth had given humanity natural advantages. Their bodies could withstand forces that would incapacitate other species. The swarms tried to adapt, but they faced something new. Weapons forged in Earth's extremes cut through their defenses. Kinetic rounds fired from railguns tore through their formations. Plasma weapons, tested in pressures that would crush most ships, burned through their biomechanical flesh. They're retreating from direct combat, Ta One reported. Swarms are regrouping, changing tactics. They've never had to do that before. The Nura watched in awe as human ships operated in conditions that would destroy their vessels. The fleet moved through radiation fields, magnetic storms, and gravitational distortions that the swarms had used to destroy other species. This is why they feared us, Captain Lee said quietly. Everything that made us dangerous to them now makes us their best hope. The battle continued to unfold. Human ships took damage but kept fighting, their redundant systems and robust construction proving their worth. The swarms found themselves facing an enemy that couldn't be easily broken, couldn't be disabled with advanced weapons. All ships pressed the advantage. Admiral Park commanded, "Show them what Deathworlders can do." The human fleet pushed forward, their primitive technology proving more effective than centuries of Nura advancement. The swarms began to retreat, faced with a species that had turned their harsh evolution into a weapon. Lieutenant Ta One's sensors told the story. For the first time, The biomechanical threat was losing. Humanity's first major interstellar battle was becoming a turning point in galactic history. The Deathworlders had arrived, and they were proving why they had survived their cruel homeworld. Intelligence Officer Yu Jin sat in her dimly lit office aboard the Thunderstorm, her eyes fixed on the encrypted data scrolling across her screen. What had started as routine intelligence gathering had uncovered something that made her blood run cold. The Nura's databases held dark secrets, carefully hidden beneath layers of encryption. "Computer, confirm translation," she ordered, her fingers trembling slightly as she accessed another file. The truth was worse than anyone had imagined. The Nura hadn't just discovered the biomechanical swarms, they had redirected them, deliberately sacrificing other civilizations to buy themselves time. 3 species, each younger than humanity, had been systematically fed to the swarms. The Nura had provided them with ineffective defenses, gathered data as they fell, and used that information to better protect themselves. The evidence was damning. Strategic reports, cold calculations of acceptable losses, coordinates given to the swarms. Yu Jin immediately contacted Admiral Park. Within minutes, the Admiral stood in her office, his face growing darker as he reviewed the evidence. The recordings were clear. Chancellor Nayoung himself had approved the sacrifices, calling it regrettable but necessary. "Get me a secure channel to the Chancellor," Park ordered, his voice carrying the weight of judgment rather than protection now. "And alert our fleet. Combat status remains, but our mission has changed." Chancellor Nayoung's holographic form appeared before them, still projecting the dignity of his office. But something in Park's expression made him pause. "Explain the Meraxis sector," Park said simply, watching as recognition flickered across the Chancellor's crystalline features. "Explain why 3 developing civilizations were given coordinates that led the swarms directly to their worlds." The silence stretched for several heartbeats before Nayoung spoke. "You must understand our position. We needed time to develop our defenses. Those species, their sacrifice allowed us to gather crucial data. They trusted you for protection." Yu Jin interjected, unable to contain her disgust. "They were barely spacefaring. They had no chance." The Chancellor's composure cracked slightly. "What would you have us do? Watch our own people die? We made the hard choice, the logical choice. Better to sacrifice the few than lose everything." Admiral Park's voice was cold steel. "You could have warned them, given them a real chance to fight or flee. Instead, you used them as lab rats, watching how they died to perfect your own defenses." More evidence flowed across the screens. Casualty reports treated like experimental data, death tolls reduced to statistical analyses. The Nura had watched entire worlds die, carefully documenting the swarm's evolution while offering false hope to their victims. "You came to Earth begging for help," Park continued. "Claimed you needed our primitive strength. But you never told us we weren't the first. Never mentioned the civilizations you sacrificed." The Chancellor straightened, defiance replacing his shame. "We did what was necessary for survival. You, of all people, should understand that. Your species survived a death world through ruthless adaptation. We adapted ourselves," Yu Jin snapped. "We didn't climb to safety on mountains of corpses. There's a difference between survival and murder." Park's next words carried the weight of humanity's judgment. "The mission parameters have changed, Chancellor. We'll still fight your swarms, not for you, but for justice. And when this is over, you'll answer for 3 genocides." Throughout the human fleet, the news spread. What had begun as a rescue mission transformed into something else. Humanity had come to protect the Nura, but now they would also judge them. The Deathworlder's moral compass, forged in Earth's harsh cradle, pointed toward justice. As Yu Jin continued uncovering more evidence, the full scope of the Nura's betrayal became clear. They hadn't just sacrificed 3 civilizations. They had methodically documented their deaths, treating their extinction as mere data points. The sophisticated Nura, who had looked down on humanity's primitive ways, had proven themselves far more barbaric than the Deathworlders they feared. The human fleet maintained their defensive positions, but their purpose had shifted. They would still fight the swarms, still protect innocent lives. But when the battle ended, there would be a reckoning. The galaxy would learn that humanity's harsh evolution had given them more than just physical strength. It had given them an unshakable sense of justice. Commander Sangmin's eyes narrowed as he studied the tactical display aboard the Thunderstorm. Something about the Nura's suggested battle formations didn't align with standard defensive protocols. Their fleet movements seemed designed not to protect their worlds, but to funnel the human forces into a specific position. "Admiral, we have a problem," he announced, highlighting the suspicious patterns. "The Nura are positioning us directly in the swarm's historical attack vector. They're trying to use us as bait, or worse, a sacrifice." Admiral Park analyzed the data, his expression hardening. The Nura's betrayal of other species hadn't been a one-time desperation move. It was their standard strategy. Now they planned to add humanity to their list of sacrifices. "All ships, break formation," Park commanded. "The Nura are attempting to position us for maximum casualty potential. They're hoping the swarms will focus on us while they gather more data on their weapons' effectiveness." Captain Sun Mi Lee's voice came over the comm. "Admiral, my tactical team confirms. Their fleet movements are designed to block our retreat paths once the trap is sprung." The human fleet split apart just as the swarms emerged from hyperspace, exactly where the Nura had tried to position Earth's forces. The biomechanical entities filled the space like a metallic storm, their numbers far greater than any previous encounter. "Execute Plan Delta," Park ordered. "Captain Lee, take defensive formation. Commander Haynul, prepare the counterstrike." The human fleet moved with practiced precision. Lee's ships formed a barrier between the swarms and the civilian populations, while Haynul's strike force disappeared behind Nura Prime's larger moon, their engines cold and systems minimal. Chancellor Nayoung's panicked voice filled the command channel. "What are you doing? The formation we suggested would have maximized our defensive capability. You mean it would have maximized your data collection?" Sangmin countered, his fingers flying over tactical controls. "Just like the last 3 species you sacrificed. The swarms attacked, but instead of finding a tightly packed human fleet perfect for destruction, they encountered scattered forces using Earth's combat doctrine. Ships designed for a death world proved harder to destroy than the Nura had calculated." "Now, Commander Haynul," Park commanded. Haynul's strike force erupted from behind the moon, catching both the swarms and the Nura fleet off guard. Their weapons, tested in Earth's harshest environments, tore through the enemy formations. The Nura watched in horror as their carefully planned sacrifice turned into a devastating counterattack. "You wanted to study Deathworlders." Park's voice carried across all channels. "Study this." Human ships demonstrated why their primitive design philosophy produced survivors. While Nura vessels relied on complex energy fields and crystalline technology, Earth's fleet used reinforced armor, redundant systems, and weapons that worked in any conditions. The swarms found themselves caught between hammer and anvil, Lee's defensive line and Haynul's strike force. The Nura's betrayal had failed, their attempt to sacrifice humanity backfiring spectacularly. "All ships, execute maximum damage protocols," Park ordered. "Show them the full capability of Earth's fleet. The Nura want data. Let's give them something to analyze." The battle transformed into a demonstration of why humanity had survived its harsh homeworld. Every tactic the Nura had documented from previous sacrifices proved useless against ships built to endure conditions that would destroy most vessels. Commander Sangmin watched as the swarms began to retreat, their adaptive programming encountering something they couldn't overcome: the sheer determination and survival instinct of a species forged in Earth's crucible. The Nura's betrayal would indeed cost them dearly. They had tried to sacrifice humanity, but instead demonstrated why Deathworlders were feared across the galaxy. The price of their treachery would be paid not just in military defeat, but in the judgment that would follow. The dark void of space lit up with devastation as Earth's fleet unleashed their full arsenal. Lieutenant Jiwoo's voice rang clear across the command channel as she activated the experimental gravity weapons, technology born from humanity's struggle against their homeworld's crushing force. "Gravity wells deployed," she announced, targeting swarm concentrations. The weapons, tested in Earth's deepest ocean trenches, created localized fields of crushing pressure. The biomechanical swarms, for all their adaptability, had never encountered forces like these. Their bodies crumpled and twisted, unable to maintain cohesion under pressures that would have crushed most spacecraft. Captain Sun Mi's squadron swept through the chaos, their sensors detecting something unexpected behind the Nura's defensive lines. Hidden installations, weapon platforms disguised as debris, all part of the Nura's contingency plans. "They never intended to just sacrifice us," Sun Mi reported, her voice hard. "They planned to trap us here, study how we died, just like the others." Admiral Park's response was immediate. "Unmask all batteries. Show them what Earth's weapons can really do." The human fleet's response was devastating. Weapons designed for volcanic heat cut through the swarm's regenerative abilities. Rail guns, tested against Earth's geological pressures, fired projectiles that shattered both biomechanical entities and Nura defenses. Lieutenant Jiwoo's gravity weapons proved especially effective. The swarms couldn't adapt to forces that violated their basic physical structure. Each pulse created zones of impossible pressure, turning space itself into a weapon. "Multiple swarm formations breaking apart," she reported. "Their adaptive programming can't compensate for fundamental physics." Captain Sun Mi's ships methodically exposed and eliminated the Nura's hidden defenses. Their deception crumbled along with their secret weapon platforms. The sophisticated civilization that had looked down on primitive humans watched their carefully laid plans fall apart. The biomechanical threat, which had consumed 17 colonies and 3 civilizations, faced something they couldn't process: weapons born from a world that should have killed its inhabitants. Earth's fleet didn't rely on elegant solutions or advanced technology. They used the brutal lessons learned from their deadly homeworld. "Swarm cohesion failing across all sectors," Jiwoo announced. "Their command structure is collapsing." The battle transformed into a rout. Human ships, built to endure conditions that would destroy most vessels, pressed their advantage. The swarms tried to adapt, but faced too many unknown variables: gravity weapons, thermal lances tested in volcanoes, armoring designed for crushing depths. Captain Sun Mi's squadron broke through the last of the Nura's hidden defenses, exposing their backup command centers. The truth of their betrayal lay bare, not just of humanity, but of their own principles. "Target their command and control," Park ordered. "End this." The biomechanical threat that had terrorized the galaxy crumbled before humanity's response. Earth's fleet, the so-called primitives, had succeeded where centuries of advanced civilization had failed. The swarms, unable to adapt to weapons forged in Earth's extremes, began to disintegrate. Lieutenant Jiwoo's gravity weapons delivered the final blow, creating a cascade of crushing forces that tore apart the swarm's remaining structure. The threat that had consumed worlds died in the face of humanity's determination and the terrible lessons learned from their harsh homeworld. As the last of the swarms collapsed, the human fleet turned their attention to the Nura. Their betrayal would not go unanswered. The Deathworlders had arrived as saviors, but would remain as judges, their sense of justice as unbreakable as their will to survive. The Galactic Council chamber fell silent as Admiral Park stepped onto the speaking platform. The massive hall, filled with representatives from 100 species, waited to hear humanity's terms. The defeat of the biomechanical swarms had transformed Earth's status from primitive outcasts to a dominant force overnight. "The threat is eliminated," Park began, his voice carrying across the chamber. "But now we must address the crimes that accompanied it. The Nura's betrayal wasn't just of humanity. It was of everything this council claims to stand for." Commander Haynewell's final report, displayed on the enormous screens. The evidence was undeniable. Records of sacrificed civilizations, calculated genocides, and the attempted betrayal of Earth's fleet. The Nura leadership stood in chains, their crystalline forms dulled with shame. 3 species extinct, 17 colonies destroyed, all because sophisticated civilization chose calculation over conscience, Park continued. Earth proposes new terms for our involvement in galactic affairs. The council members shifted uncomfortably. Humanity's primitive technology had proven more effective than centuries of advanced development. Their harsh evolution had created not just survivors, but champions of justice. First, all species will have access to Earth's defensive technologies. No more hidden sacrifices. No more calculated losses. Park's terms rolled across the chamber. Second, the Nura leadership will face trial for genocide. Sophistication does not excuse atrocity. Chancellor Neyung and his advisors stood before the council, their previous arrogance replaced with fear. They had thought to sacrifice the Deathworlders. Instead, they had awakened humanity's moral fury. Finally, Park declared, Earth will establish a permanent presence in council space. Our primitive perspective seems needed to balance advanced civilization's calculations. The council's vote was unanimous. Fear of humanity's capabilities mixed with respect for their principles. The species that had evolved on a death world had proven themselves champions of life. Commander Haynewell's report became mandatory reading at the Council Academy. It detailed not just the military victory, but the moral imperative that drove humanity's actions. The harsh world that had forged humanity's strength had also forged their sense of justice. Let this stand as a reminder, Park concluded. Earth's children are not just survivors of a cruel world. We are protectors of those who cannot protect themselves. Our primitive nature includes an unshakable commitment to justice. The Nura leadership's trial began immediately. Their sophisticated defenses crumbled before the simple evidence of their crimes. The civilization that had looked down on humanity's crude methods faced judgment from those same primitives. Earth's fleet remained in council space, a visible reminder of the Deathworlders' power. But they were no longer feared as brutal savages. Instead, they became known as fierce protectors of galactic law and justice. The council chambers added a new symbol, Earth's flag, displayed prominently beside the ancient emblems of founding species. Humanity's harsh evolution had created something unique in the galaxy, a species that combined physical might with moral clarity. Admiral Park's final words to the council became famous throughout known space. We survived our deadly world not by sacrificing others, but by standing together. Remember this, Earth's children will always choose justice over convenience, protection over calculation, and right over sophistication. The galaxy had learned a crucial lesson. The primitive Deathworlders had proven themselves the most civilized of all. Their harsh world had forged not just survivors, but champions of justice, protectors of the weak, and judges of the mighty. End.